Welcome to this webinar regarding the high-quality pre-kindergarten component of teacher qualifications. My name is Tamala Olsby. I am an education specialist here in the Early Childhood Education Division of TEA. Here is our agenda for today. We will go over an overview of all of the high quality components. We will then specifically look at teacher qualifications by looking at statute and commissioner's rule, and then discussing what does all of that mean. And then we will look at some frequently asked questions, do a brief introduction to mentoring and coaching, and close our day by talking about how you can meet this requirement and giving you some resources and support for your compliance efforts. So let's begin by doing an overview. These are the high quality pre-kindergarten components that are referenced in statute and are a requirement of every public pre-kindergarten program within Texas that serves eligible 4-year-old students. This includes districts, districts of innovation, and charters. And the goal in implementing all of these high quality components is to raise the quality of pre-kindergarten programs across our great state. The focus of this particular webinar is on teacher qualifications. All of the information contained within this presentation comes from at least one of the sources listed on this slide. And please note, the high quality pre-kindergarten components are applicable to all programs, districts, open enrollment charters, and districts of innovation that serve eligible 4-year-old students using foundation school program funding. And I've given you the references in statute to back that assertion. So here we go. Let's delve into pre-kindergarten teacher qualifications. This slide articulates what is in statute regarding teacher qualifications. And you'll see that it gives a lot of information. It says each teacher for a pre-kindergarten program must, number 1, be certified. Number 2, have one of the following additional qualifications. And it lists 5 there. The first one is a CDA, a Child Development Associate credential. The next is certification by an association. There's 2 listed there that are accredited for Montessori. The third one is at least 8 years of teaching experience, sorry about that, in a nationally accredited child care program. And the fourth one is be employed as a teacher in a district that you are receiving training in, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in Commissioner's Rule. And then the last one is an equivalent qualification. So that sounds pretty wide open. So we learn from statute that you must be certified and you must have an additional qualification, and it listed 5. In Commissioner's Rule, there is actually 3 references to teacher qualifications. So this one, this slide and the next slide show the first reference in Commissioner's Rule. And this is going to spell out more about what we read in statute when it said an approved training program or an equivalent qualification. So let's look here. So you will see that it starts off very similar. You must be certified, and you must have one of the following additional qualifications. The first couple are exactly the same. One is a child development associate credential. The second is a Montessori certificate. The third is 8 years of teaching in a nationally accredited child care program. The fourth says a graduate or undergraduate degree in early childhood education, that would be the major listed on the degree, or early childhood special education, again, that would be the major listed on the teacher's transcripts, or a non-early childhood education degree with a documented minimum of 15 units of coursework in early childhood education. The next one is documented completion of the Texas School Ready training program. That we often refer to that as TSR Comprehensive. And then the next one is very long, so we'll try to go over this. The next one is that you are employed as a pre-kindergarten teacher, and either A, you have completed 150 hours of documented PD that addresses the Texas pre-K guidelines in addition to other relevant topics over consecutive 5-year period. So in other words, you've already done 150 hours, but it's in very ECE specific topics. Or B, if you haven't done the 150, you must complete 30 hours of the 150 each year. And it lists some, you will notice, topics that would be considered ECE specific. This is not an exclusive list. This is just a list of relevant topics. So you will see it lists the Texas Pre-K guidelines again. It lists the use of student progress monitoring results to inform classroom instruction. It lists improving the classroom environment to enhance student outcomes. And lastly, improving the effectiveness of teacher-student interaction. So basically, either a teacher has 150 cumulative hours, or they are working toward 150 cumulative hours by doing 30 of them a year until the 150 is reached. And then you will notice C. It says at least half of those hours, so half of the 150 under A, or half of the 30 a year under B, must have direct interaction with mentoring and coaching. So that is a lot. So let's look at a chart that we have tried to pull together for you to help it be a little less cumbersome in reading all of that. So hopefully this can show you the options. You will notice there are 7 of them. You will notice that you must be appropriately certified to teach early childhood in every option. Usually that is designated in the teacher's certificate because it'll say EC. It might say EC through 2nd. It might say EC through 4th. It might say EC through 6, whatever, but EC is on the teaching certificate. And then you will see the 7 options in the additional qualification. And you will notice that we have combined what is in statute, and what is in commissioner's rule for these 7 options. So one is you have a CDA credential and you are appropriately certified. Option 2 is you are appropriately certified and you have a Montessori certification. Option 3 is you are appropriately certified and you've taught for 8 years in a nationally accredited childcare program. Option 4 is that you are appropriately certified and you have a degree. And remember, there's 3 options for that. Number 5 would be you are appropriately certified and you've completed the Texas School Ready Comprehensive Program. Option 6 is that you are appropriately certified and you have documented proof of your 150 hours of PD. 75 of those 150 hours must be in mentoring and coaching. And then option 7 is that, again, you are appropriately certified and you are on your way to that 150 hours. You are completing 30 hours annually, 15 in what we would consider normal PD, and the other 15 hours would be in mentoring and coaching. So hopefully this chart will help divide it down a little better for you. Let's look at the second reference now in Commissioner's Rule. It says, in a format prescribed by TEA, a school district or open enrollment charter school shall report the additional teacher qualification described in Section D of this section. So what this means is that every year, LEAs will report into ECDS the additional qualification that each pre-kindergarten teacher of record has that serves eligible 4-year-old students. And then the last reference in Commissioner's Rule to teacher qualification is this one. A school district or an open enrollment charter school shall maintain locally and provide at the TEA's request the necessary documentation, blah, 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 blah. So basically what this means is that not only would you make sure that your teachers are all certified and have meet an additional qualification, that you would put it into ECDS, and if requested, you would be able to show documentation of that. So let's go now into some frequently asked questions. Let's look at this first one. What is considered early childhood specific coursework? Do you remember in option 4 where it specifically says if you have a non-ECE degree, you have to have 15 units of ECE specific coursework? Well, what does that mean? Well, the answer is that coursework that is early childhood specific covers the age span from birth through 2nd grade. Coursework that covers the entire age span of elementary age students, like pre-K through 6, is not considered early childhood specific. So the same definition applies in all areas where it is listed early childhood specific. We're focusing on the age group between birth and 2nd grade. So let's spend a little bit of time talking about mentoring and coaching, mainly because most of the pre-kindergarten teachers within our state are either, they're doing option 7. They're completing their 30 hours of PD with the mentoring and coaching annually. I want to spend a little bit of time going over mentoring and coaching. So what are the core elements of mentoring and coaching? You'll see from these core elements, effective mentoring and coaching is a relationship-based relationship between someone who's considered an expert and somebody who is learning. And it is most effective when the focus isn't on a global early childhood subject, but on a specific skill or teaching practice that a teacher could immediately implement in their daily work. And effective mentoring and coaching also has the sense of being ongoing. It is not a one-time event. You might be wondering who could be a mentor or a coach. Well, look at this long list, and it is certainly not exhaustive. As you will see, there are numerous options in finding a mentor or a coach to help support your pre-kindergarten teachers. That could be anyone from the ESC to an actual instructional coach within your district, to a supervisor, a principal, even peer teachers. So there are lots of options. Here is a graphic representation of the mentoring and coaching cycles. You will see there's 3 parts. The first would be an observation of the teaching practice with some guided feedback. The next is a collaborative, the coach and the teacher reflecting on that observation and then setting some goals. And then lastly, implementing an action plan that is focused on improvement. And then you will notice this cycle just repeats itself. So a teacher may be working on a specific skill for several coaching cycles. That is not unusual. There are several delivery models that can be implemented. It can be implemented or delivered by having face-to-face interactions between the mentor coach and the teacher. It could be delivered within a professional learning community or a PLC. The difference in this model would be that the mentor and coach is working with probably more than one teacher. And they would all be working on the same teaching skill or practice. Mentoring and coaching can also be delivered through technology. When practicing a new skill, a teacher could videotape themselves. The mentor and coach then could watch the videotape and give feedback. And this technology-based could be looped in with the PLC. So there's many ways to take all of these, combine them, and have a great delivery model for mentoring and coaching. It is important to emphasize here that no matter how an LEA delivers the mentoring and coaching, all aspects of the mentoring and coaching cycle should be presented in whatever model that a district is using. It is important to document the professional development that each pre-kindergarten teacher receives, as well as the mentoring and coaching in which they participate. Documentation should include the name of the coach, the name of the staff member, the topic of the mentoring and coaching, and of course, make sure that's an ECE specific topic, and also the time spent in each of those activities. Districts and charters can use this documentation for further planning, and this documentation can also assist the teacher in renewing their Texas teaching certification. Increasing a pre-kindergarten teacher's effectiveness is a valuable way to build the quality of our Texas pre-kindergarten program. I'd like us to do some reflection now to determine your next steps. This slide contains a checklist of the requirements that are associated with pre-kindergarten teacher qualifications. I'd like you to consider, you'll notice there are 4 requirements. I'd like you to consider whether you are meeting that requirement or you are in the process of meeting that requirement. And if you are in the process of meeting the requirement, please consider what your next steps or what your follow-up might be. This checklist is part of an overall checklist that can be found on our high quality web pages, and I'm going to give you the link to that at the end of this presentation. So let's go over these 4 requirements again. The first one is all pre-kindergarten teachers have a current Texas certification that enables them to teach pre-K. It should say EC on it. The second one is every teacher of record has an additional qualification. The last one, or second to the last one, is the teacher's unique ID and their additional qualification is uploaded into ECDS annually. And lastly, the LEA maintains the records to document all of this work within this component. If you are in compliance with this high quality component, TEA would encourage you to consider using the pre-K version of the Early Childhood Program Self-Assessment document to consider more ways to improve your pre-kindergarten program. There is a whole section in this document focused on administrative and teaching staff. And it would be great for you to take a look at that. Let's look now at some resources and support that may assist you in complying with the high quality component of teacher qualifications. So let's go over this list. The first thing, there are some frequently asked questions. And so you have the link to that. And those questions are specifically aimed at teacher qualifications. I've also given you the link to that Early Childhood Program Self-Assessment document, which we just talked about. And I've given you the link to the Division of Educator Certification webpage. If you have teachers that may need some assistance in their teacher certification, they are the individuals that will be able to assist you. I've also given you the link to a document that's called Partners in Action, a mentoring toolkit for early childhood providers. This is a great document that will give you more support in creating a mentoring coaching program within your district. And lastly, I've given you the link to that checklist, that overall checklist for all of the components that we talked about. The Early Childhood Division at TEA is ready and willing to support all your efforts. So please do not hesitate to visit our website and don't hesitate to call us when needed. In closing, I'd like to remind us there is nothing more important than having an effective, well-trained teacher in a pre-kindergarten classroom. We are hoping that this webinar will assist you in your continuous improvement efforts. Thank you for joining us.